it's been a while, guys. It's been a while. So in this episode 4, we're gonna learn about variable math. Yay! Okay, so this is where we left off, and looking back, I saw that the videos were kind of the text was really small, so I'm gonna enlarge it here. We're gonna jump right into variable math. Now, as you know, we can declare and initialize variables to values, and we have variables that hold numbers, integers, and doubles, and I told you about floats and small and long and all about that stuff. But we're just gonna make it simple here. We're gonna do some simple math. So let's declare a few variables. Int number 1. I'm gonna show you another programming technique actually right here. What I'm doing, it's called Camel Case. Yeah, Camel Case. It's where when you have two words combined into one variable name, the second word the first letter of the second word will be capitalized, and that works for every other word you concatenate onto your variable name. So number 1, letter 1, something like that. So that's called Camel Case. Alternatively, you can do something like this. It's not, written rules, but it is pretty much all programmers do that. Number 1 is equal to, let's say, 4. Number 2 is equal to 2, I guess. Number 3 is equal to 9, and number 4, we'll say, is equal to 10. And we have to put our programming period, which is the semicolon. Okay, so right now we're just gonna play around with integers. Mixing integers with decimals in math in programming can get a little tricky, and I'll tell you why later. So for now, we're gonna print some text to the screen. The value of, oops, don't want to do that. I can do that. I think that's how it is. Of number 1 is, actually I don't want to confuse you guys. Number 1. Oh, and I can't forget end line. Actually, I'm going to show you another way. No, I won't. End line. Alright, what is this? This line of code that I just wrote. Well, let's break it down. See out. Of course, print this line onto the screen. That's what that means. Insertion operator. So what are we inserting? We're inserting this to the see out stream. And this is a string. The value of number 1 is. And remember, strings are held in quotes. After that, insertion operator, and then I'm going to insert into the cout stream the value of the variable number 1, which in this case is 4. And then insertion operator end line, or end L in this case. And I'm going to keep doing this for all the variables. The value of number 2 is, and this space is kind of important, because without this space right here, you're just going to have the value of the variable crammed right next to is. So it's just a design thing that I think you should follow. See out the value of number 3 is insertion operator number 3. And last but not least, yeah, value of number 4 is number 4. Alright, so this isn't too complicated of a program. We manually gave the variables a number, and we're just telling the user that we've done that by putting it on the screen. So let's see what this looks like. Start without debugging. And it might take a while because I haven't run this in a while. Alright, so here we go. Let me see if I can make the font bigger. There. Whoa, okay. Hopefully that's better for you guys. The value of number 1 is 4. The value of number 2 is 2. The value of number 3 is 9. And the value of number 4 is 10. Press any key to continue. So that just reflects everything we've just coded right now to the user. And it's always good to do that from time to time. So I want to put... Actually, I'll show you in this line. I'm going to now tell the user that I'm doing some math. So I'm going to say number 1, or actually, before I do that, I want to show you the a special character, \n. This character is the same basically as end-l, except that it is placed inside of the quotation marks. You can think of it as a character, so it needs to go inside quotation marks or apostrophe or single quotes, and it starts a new line. So that's what the n stands for, is new line. So I'm just going to say the sum of number 1 and number 2 is space quote insertion operator, and now we can do some math called, I like to call it variable math. So how do we do this? The sum of number 1 plus and number 2, that's number 1, the value of number 1 plus number 2. So 4 plus 2. We're not going to write 4, or we're not going to do it in our heads, 4 plus 2 is 6, and just say 6. We can do it with variables. So I could say number 1 plus number 2. And then that'll display the value of the sum of variable number 1 and number 2, which should be 4 plus 2, which should come out to be 6. End line. Why don't we test that? It's always good to test right after you make changes to your program. So we have the values printed out, and then we have the statement, the sum of number 1 and number 2 is 6, which it is. We can do even more math, not just adding. So cout new line. Oh, we did an end-l, so we don't really need that. It's going to be one big paragraph. Now let's not do some. Let's do difference of, oh yeah, difference this time. Number 1 and number 2 is number 1, not pun, minus number 2. I'm trying to make these videos as fast as I can because I don't want... I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of the mathematical operations. Did I add an end line? Yeah, I did. The products, and we'll use a different variable, of number 3 and number 4. Gosh, I feel like Codename Kids Next Door. Number 4. Number 3, and the multiplication in code is asterisk. So little asterisk, number 4. And L. And quotient. You gotta be careful with quotient because if you can't really divide by 0, it makes your program crash. The quotient of number, let's break 10 down into 2 parts. So number 4 and number 2, not toe, is, and I forgot, is here. Insertion operator, number 4 backslash is division, whoops, number, what did I say, 2, end L. I'm going to put 2 end L's to separate the return line, and we'll run this. Alright, so sum of number 1 and number 2 is 6, that's correct. The difference of number 1 and number 2 is 2, 4 minus 2 is 2. The product of number 3 and number 4 is 90, 9 times 10 is 90, and the quotient of number 4 and number 2 is 5, so 10 divided by 2 is 5. That is variable math, and it'll come in handy sometimes, most times. So what we're just working with integers here, numbers without decimal parts, and they always warn you when they're teaching programming to don't really use integers. Don't when you're doing variable math. You really always want to use doubles. So just by changing int to double here, I've completely changed the type of all of these variables from integers to decimals. And when you're declaring decimals and initializing them, you always want to make a habit of adding the decimal point and the decimal values. In this case, they're all really whole numbers. So I'm just going to put .0 to keep them whole numbers in decimal form. So let's see what this looks like printed. And it's the same. Oh wait, let me build first. Yeah, it is the same. Okay, just making sure. There is a way that you can turn on the decimal, and I'll get to that in a later video, but I think this video is kind of long as it is. So I'm going to stop it right here. And you learned variable mathematics. Not too fancy. I'll do a little project about this. Not a project, but I'll do a more complicated example in the next video, maybe with a popular formula or something. So see you then.